What if the men who broke your heart, the ones who ghosted, who wouldn't commit, who made you feel you were asking for too much, what if they weren't the villains of your story? What if, and just sit with this for a second, they were actors? Actors you unconsciously hired to play a very specific part in a tragedy you didn't even know you were writing. This isn't about blame. Forget that word. This is about power. The kind of deep, world-altering power that comes from understanding the hidden forces that shape your life. Today, we're going deep into the psychological underworld with the master himself, Carl Jung, to uncover how a woman's own unhealed parts can literally create the man she learns to hate. And our journey starts by meeting the most important person you've never truly met, your own shadow. I want you to imagine that your mind, your conscious self that you walk around with every day, is like the main floor of a beautiful house. It's the part you keep clean. It's where you welcome guests. It's the version of you that you present to the world, the polite, capable, reasonable you. But every house has a basement. A place where you throw everything you don't want to look at. Everything that doesn't fit with the clean, respectable image of the main floor. The broken furniture, the embarrassing old photos, the things you swear you'll deal with one day. You might not go down there for years. You might even forget the door is there. But everything you've ever stored in that basement is still there. It's part of the house, and it has its own energy. In psychology, that basement has a name. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow is the container for every part of yourself that you have disowned. Every impulse, feeling, and trait that you were taught was unacceptable. Think about it. From the moment you were born, you were getting messages. Nice girls don't get angry, so you threw your rage into the basement. Don't be so needy, so your deep human need for connection went into the shadow. You're too ambitious, too loud, too sensitive, too much. Every time you heard it too, you cut off a piece of yourself and tossed it downstairs, into the dark, just to be accepted. The unladylike ambition, the selfish desire for freedom, the irrational jealousy, the secret sense of superiority, the profound vulnerability you were told was weakness. It's all down there. But here is the critical part that most people miss. The shadow isn't just the bad stuff. It's not a pit of evil. It's also where your gold is buried. Maybe your family was very quiet and reserved, so you repressed a powerful, charismatic personality. You threw your own leadership into the shadow. Maybe you were told that being an artist wasn't a real job, so you locked away your incredible creativity, your untamed, wild, powerful, authentic self. So much of it is living in that basement because at some point, someone made you feel it was unsafe to bring it upstairs. So what happens to all this repressed energy? Does it just sit there quietly? Absolutely not. The shadow, when ignored, does not disappear. It festers, and it demands to be seen. It doesn't come knocking politely on the basement door. It seeps out, sideways. It's the sarcastic comment that slips out when you intended to be kind. It's the impulse to sabotage a great opportunity the moment it arrives. It's that sudden, inexplicable wave of melancholy on a perfectly good day. The shadow projects itself into the world, desperately trying to get your attention. It's the unseen puppeteer pulling the strings of your emotional life. And its absolute favorite stage, the place it can put on its grandest performance, is in your romantic relationships. It is the invisible engine that drives the cycle of attraction and heartbreak. And that brings us to the man in your mirror. That wasn't just a poetic phrase. It's the next piece of this profound and intricate puzzle. If your shadow is the secret you keep from yourself, there's another secret living right alongside it. A hidden figure inside your psyche, an invisible partner who has been influencing every romantic decision you have ever made. Carl Jung had a name for this too. He called it the Animus. The Animus is, in the simplest terms, the unconscious masculine side of a woman. But side is too weak a word. It's more like a psychic blueprint, a composite sketch of man that you carry within you. This isn't an imaginary friend. It's a powerful, active psychological structure that has been under construction since the day you were born. So, who built this inner man? Who was the architect? You were, but you didn't draw the plans alone. Your animus was assembled in a kind of psychic workshop, piece by piece, from the fragments of every significant male figure in your life. The first and most powerful brushstroke is almost always your father. His strength, his weaknesses, his affection, his absence. He laid the foundation. Then came other influences, brothers, grandfathers, a beloved teacher, the first boy who was kind to you, and the first boy who wasn't. But it doesn't stop with real people. This inner man is also built from the ideals you absorbed from culture. The heroes in the books you read, the charming leading men in the movies you loved, the rebels, the poets, the saviors. They all contributed a piece to this internal collage. He is your own personal mythology of what a man is. Now, here is where it gets incredibly important. The Animus does not live in isolation. He lives right next door to the shadow in that same psychic basement. And the shadow has a profound influence on him. Think of it this way. The Animus is the blueprint, but the shadow is the emotional ink it's drawn with. If your shadow is filled with the repressed grief and rage from a father who was emotionally absent, your inner blueprint will be of a man who is distant, unreliable, and ultimately will abandon you. If your shadow holds the pain of being cheated on, your inner animus becomes a suspicious, untrustworthy figure, forever hiding a secret. If your shadow is packed with the shame of being told you were too much, your animus might become a harsh inner critic, a masculine voice inside you that tells you you're still not good enough. This is what Jungians call a negative animus, a distorted, wounded version of the masculine that lives inside you, not as a source of strength, but as a saboteur. And this negative animus, this ghost in your machine, he doesn't just sit quietly. He has a very active job. His job is to be your gatekeeper. When you meet a new man, your conscious mind is checking the boxes. Is he handsome? Does he have a good job? Is he funny? But your unconscious mind is doing something else entirely. It's doing a rapid, lightning-fast background check. It holds this new, real-life man up against your inner blueprint, your animus. And it asks one question: is he a match? Have you ever felt that instant, inexplicable magnetic pull towards someone you just met? That feeling of, I've known you forever? People call it chemistry or fate. A Jungian would call it something else, a pattern match. Your unconscious mind recognized something in him. It saw that he perfectly matched the blueprint of your animus, especially the negative, wounded parts. He is the key that fits the specific, jagged shape of your lock. And so your entire system screams, him! He's the one. Not because he is good for you, but because he feels familiar. He feels like the embodiment of the story you already know. So you have this flawed internal blueprint. You have this powerful, unconscious mechanism of recognition. But what do you do with it? You don't keep it inside. Oh no, you do something far more powerful and far more dangerous. You project it. All right, let's talk about that word I left hanging in the air, project. Because this is where the internal, invisible world of your shadow and your animus collides with the external, real world of the man sitting across the table from you. This is the moment the ghost leaves the machine. I want you to try a little thought experiment with me. Imagine the new man you're dating isn't a fully formed person. At least, not at first. Imagine he's a blank movie screen. He's just there. White, neutral, full of potential. Now, who is in the projection booth? You are, or more specifically, your unconscious is. And it has a film it is absolutely desperate to play. It's a vintage classic from your personal archives, a film you've seen 1,000 times. The star of that film is your negative animus, the distant, critical, untrustworthy man we talked about. And the electricity powering that old, rattling projector? That's the raw, potent, ignored energy of your shadow. So you're sitting there on a date. You're talking, you're laughing. Consciously, you're getting to know him. But unconsciously, your projector is humming, warmed up, looking for a reason to start the show. And then, he gives you one. It's never a huge, glaring red flag. The unconscious is far more subtle than that. It's a hook, a tiny, insignificant detail. Maybe he checks a notification on his phone. Maybe he uses a particular turn of phrase that reminds you of your father. Maybe he hesitates for a split second when you ask about his future plans. It is a nothing burger, a meaningless blip. To anyone else, it's just life happening. But in the cinema of your unconscious, that little hook is everything. It's the cue. The projector clicks on. The powerful beam of your psychic energy shoots across the room. And that blank screen of a man is instantly covered in the images and feelings of your film. He is no longer a guy who just checked his phone. He is now emotionally unavailable. He is distracted. He is hiding something. He is just like your father. He is going to leave you. The real, complex, nuanced human being has vanished. And in his place stands a character, the villain from your past, the man from your blueprint. This is the fatal projection. You are no longer seeing him. You are seeing the sum of all your fears about men, superimposed over his form. You are no longer in a conversation with a person. You are in a confrontation with a ghost. And the most chilling part? He has no idea this just happened. He looks up from his phone, smiles, and has no clue that he just failed a final exam for a class he didn't even know he was enrolled in. He cannot feel the weight of the character you have just forced him to play. But he will, soon. Because you don't just see him differently, you start to treat him differently. Your energy shifts. A subtle coldness enters your voice. You become more guarded, or maybe you start seeking more reassurance to quell the anxiety that the projection has just triggered. You start testing him, looking for more evidence to prove that your film is a documentary, not a work of fiction. This psychic movie doesn't just stay in the theater of your mind. It spills out into the real world through your actions, your words, your body language. And when it does, it forces him to react. And that reaction is the final, devastating step in this process. It is how you unknowingly, unintentionally, co-create the very monster you were terrified of meeting all along. So, you've projected your inner film onto him. He is now, in your mind, playing a role, the distant father, the untrustworthy ex, the man who will inevitably disappoint you. He, of course, is completely unaware of the costume you've just dressed him in. He just knows that something has shifted. The air has grown heavy. He feels like he's in a conversation with you, but also with a ghost in the room that only you can see. He feels like he's constantly being graded on a test for a crime he didn't commit. And a man in that impossible position, a man who is being consistently treated not as who he is, but as who you fear he is, has only two paths he can take. Both paths lead to the exact same destination, the end of the relationship. He feels the judgment. He feels the suspicion. He doesn't understand where it's coming from, but he knows he can't win. Any attempt to prove he's not the character you're projecting just gets interpreted as defensive. So what does he do? He pulls back. He stops offering as much of himself because he feels like anything he says can and will be used against him. He becomes quieter, more distant, less engaged. And in doing that, he perfectly fulfills your prophecy. Your projection of he is emotionally unavailable has created the exact conditions that force him to become emotionally unavailable. He becomes a ghost, not because that was his nature, but because you were treating him like one all along. But there is a second, more destructive path. Embodiment. On this path, he fights it for a while. He tries to prove you wrong. He tries to be the good guy, to break through your wall of suspicion. But he gets exhausted. He gets tired of auditioning for the role of good guy when the part of the villain has already been cast. And at some point, unconsciously, a switch flips inside him. He essentially says, "Fine, you want a monster? You want the man who doesn't care? The one who is cold and selfish? You've been treating me like him for weeks anyway. Let me show you what that actually looks like." He stops trying. He leans into the role you've handed him. He becomes the cold, distant, untrustworthy killer of intimacy because you convinced him that's who he was anyway. This isn't a conscious, evil decision. It's a deep, psychological surrender. He becomes the very monster you were terrified of, completing the tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy. The film you projected onto the blank screen has now become his reality, and yours. The relationship ends, and you walk away with what feels like undeniable proof. See, I was right about him all along. They're all the same. But the devastating truth, the truth that holds the key to your freedom, is that he wasn't the same until your unhealed wound needed him to be. It was a script you didn't know you wrote, a role you didn't know you cast, and a tragedy you didn't know you directed. So let's bring this all home. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about seeing the hidden mechanics for the first time. It all starts with the shadow, the parts of yourself you were taught to hide in the psychic basement. That shadow then infects and distorts your animus, your inner blueprint of what a man is, turning it into a negative, wounded image. Then comes the fatal moment of projection, where you mistake a real man for the ghost in your machine, casting him as the villain from your past. And finally, through his reaction to that projection, you unconsciously co-create the very behavior you feared, fulfilling the prophecy and breaking both of your hearts in the process. The most important takeaway from all of this is a powerful, world-shifting one. The men in your life are often not the source of your deepest wound. They are the messengers, sent by your own psyche, who have arrived to show you where the wound is. And the moment you truly understand that, the entire pattern loses its power over you. Because you can't fix a problem you can't see. But now you can see. If this deep dive into the human mind resonated with you, and you're ready to move beyond the surface-level dating advice, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We go this deep every single time. And now, I have a question for you. I'm genuinely curious. Comment below and let me know which part of this psychic journey, the shadow, the animus, the projection, or the self-fulfilling prophecy, was the biggest aha moment for you? Your story matters, and I read the comments. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Keep doing the work. I'll see you in the next one.